The most striking truth about the approval dealer is that they don't control you by being your biggest critic, they control you by being your most addictive fan. We generally assume that power is maintained through threats and insults, but in high-pressure dynamics, your own brain's reward system is used to turn you into an addict who will do anything for the next hit of validation. Why does the person who made you feel like a genius or a soulmate end up being the one who makes you feel like you've completely disappeared? This is the core paradox of the validation spigot. The moment your own hunger for recognition and your capacity for pride are turned into the mechanism of your own emotional enslavement. So let's really unpack this, because this idea, it just flips everything we think we know about control completely on its head. It's such a profound and, frankly, dangerous paradox. We're all trained to spot the obvious bully, right? The person who's loud and critical. We know how to defend against that. But this is different. It's quieter. It's so much more insidious. It doesn't attack your weak spots. It actually weaponizes your greatest strengths. Just think about it. What are you most proud of? Your creativity, your sharp mind, your ability to connect with people? The dealer hones in on that one thing and makes themselves the main and eventually the only source of praise for it. It's like a targeted campaign. Their praise becomes the drug, and they become your exclusive dealer. And that leads us to the really tough question at the heart of all this. How on earth does the person who made you feel like a genius or a soulmate, the one person who you felt finally got you, end up being the very same person who makes you feel like you don't even exist? This is the central paradox of what we're calling the validation spigot. It's a mechanism where your own natural, totally human need for recognition gets twisted and used against you. Your capacity for pride becomes the very chain that holds you captive. It's a devastating journey from feeling more seen than ever to feeling completely invisible.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we need a plan. Here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll dig a little deeper into the addictive fan paradox. Then, we're going to look at the science of the trap, the real psychological principles that make this work. After that, we'll map out the cycle of control, a pretty predictable three-step pattern. Then, we'll go inside your brain on praise to see the neurochemical hijack that's going on. And most importantly, we'll talk about how to reclaim your sovereignty. We'll wrap it all up with a final idea called the cage of applause. By the end, you'll have a full blueprint of this dynamic and the tools to dismantle it.
All right, let's get into the science. Because honestly, understanding the mechanics behind the magic trick is the first step to not falling for it. It's so important to see that this isn't just a simple personality clash or dealing with a difficult person. This is about leveraging powerful, universal principles of how our brains work. Principles you see in everything from casino design to how your social media feed keeps you scrolling.
The engine driving this entire dynamic has a name: intermittent reinforcement. And if you've ever wondered why a slot machine is so addictive, well, this is it. Think about it. If a machine paid out every single time, you'd get bored. If it never paid out, you'd just walk away. But because that reward is unpredictable, it could be the next pull, or maybe the one after that. Your brain goes into overdrive. That uncertainty creates an obsession. In this dynamic, praise is the jackpot. The dealer gives it, then they pull it away with no rhyme or reason. So your brain becomes totally fixated on solving the puzzle of how to get that reward again. And let me be clear, this isn't a personal failing. It's a well-documented cognitive mechanism that literally gets you hooked.
And here you can see the ultimate goal of this entire dynamic: to create a shift from stability to total chaos. On one side, you've got a healthy sense of self-worth. It's like an internal anchor. Your value comes from inside you, and it's pretty steady no matter who's patting you on the back that day. On the other side, you have what psychologists call affective volatility. A much simpler way to think of it is outsourced happiness. Your emotional state is no longer yours to control. It's completely tied to the dealer. Their praise makes you feel like you're on top of the world. Their silence sends you crashing down. The entire process is designed to pull up that internal anchor and replace it with this dependency roller coaster.
So what does this actually feel like when you're in it? Well, it usually shows up in 3 phases. First, there's the validation hook. This is that sneaky belief that settles into your mind that this person, and only this person, truly sees how special you are. Pretty soon, praise from anyone else feels flat. They become the only judge that matters. Second, approval vertigo. This is the emotional roller coaster. It's that feeling of dizzying, manic highs when you get their approval, followed by these crushing, almost physical lows when they go cold. Your entire week can be made or broken by a single look or comment. And finally, if this goes on long enough, it leads to identity colonization. You become so focused on guessing what they want, on keeping that praise coming, that you slowly lose touch with what you want, with your own friends, with your own goals.
It's like your identity is slowly being overwritten.
And this slide right here shows the end game, the final transformation. We all want to start with active self-actualization, right? That's you in the driver's seat of your own life, growing and changing based on your own internal compass. But this dynamic slowly, systematically shifts you into passive dependency. You're not driving anymore, you're just a passenger waiting for directions. You stop doing things for the joy of it and you start performing for an audience of one. That praise is no longer a gift that fuels your journey, it's a neurochemical leash, and your very sense of self ends up in a beautiful cage built from their applause.
So now that we understand the science behind the trap, let's look at how it's actually built. Because this isn't random, there's often a predictable, repeatable playbook that's used to manufacture this dependency. Understanding these 3 steps is like getting the blueprints to the trap itself, which is always the first step to disarming it.
Now, this cycle is deceptively simple, but it is brutally effective. It starts with the golden child phase. You are just flooded with intense, over-the-top validation. You're not just good, you're a genius, a once-in-a-generation talent. This isn't just flattering, it's biological. It triggers a flood of oxytocin, that's the bonding hormone, which makes you lower your guard. You feel so seen. Then, just when you're soaking it all in, bam, step 2, strategic withdrawal. Out of nowhere, the dealer becomes distant, disappointed, or subtly critical. The praise just vanishes. This causes a spike in cortisol, the stress hormone. It's a jarring, painful shock, and your brain desperately scrambles to figure out what you did wrong. And this is where the trap snaps shut. Step 3 is the compliance reward. The praise and the warmth only come back after you do something to earn it. You sacrifice a boundary, you cancel plans with someone else, you apologize for something that wasn't your fault, and your brain learns a very dangerous equation. Giving in equals relief from pain.
And when that cycle repeats over and over, this is the devastating result. It's a complete rewiring of your brain's core emotional programming. That intense feeling of relief you get when they finally praise you again. Your brain starts to mistake that for love or for a deep connection. And on the flip side, their silence, just the simple absence of praise, starts to feel like a huge catastrophic personal failure. At this point, you're not in a real relationship anymore. You're in a state of addiction management, constantly trying to get your next fix and avoid the pain of withdrawal. Okay, now let's go even deeper and look at the actual brain chemistry that makes this whole cycle so incredibly powerful. We're moving from psychology into biology now. This is all about how our brains are fundamentally wired for connection, and how that very wiring can be exploited and hijacked to create control.
The specific bond that gets formed here is something we can call dopamine-opioid bonding. It's really a 1-2 punch. The praise itself gives you that rush of dopamine. That's the pleasure, the excitement, the hit. But here's what makes it so powerful. When you make up after they've been distant, that reconciliation triggers your brain's own natural opioid system. That's that profound sense of relief, the calm after the storm, like a painkiller washing over you. So when you combine the intense pleasure of the high with the deep relief of ending the low, you create this incredibly strong addiction-like bond that's so much more powerful than just seeking praise alone. It makes it almost impossible to see things clearly. And this whole process leads to a state known as affective hijacking. Now, it sounds dramatic, but it is a real biological process. All it means is that you've effectively outsourced your own mood regulation to someone else. You're not the thermostat for your own feelings anymore. They are. A good word from them, your day is amazing. A cold shoulder, your day is ruined. Your entire emotional state is now totally dependent on their approval. And I need to be really clear here. This is not a weakness of character. It is a physiological reality of how our social brains can adapt inside intense power dynamics. So we've gone through the how. We've seen the cycle, we've seen the neurochemistry, but that leaves one big question hanging in the air. Why? What's the motivation behind a dynamic like this?
Well, on the dealer's side, the goal, whether they're conscious of it or not, is often something we can call total behavior monopolization. Think about it. If someone can control the thing you're most proud of, they have almost absolute leverage over your behavior. You'll do just about anything to avoid the shame of their disapproval. Now, what about the other side? What's the vulnerability that lets this whole thing take root? It's often a really deep-seated need for high significance. This isn't just about vanity. It often comes from a past where you learned that love and safety depended on high achievement. It's a kind of conditioning that teaches you to value being seen as extraordinary even more than you value the feeling of just being free. Okay, we have spent a lot of time mapping out the trap. So now, let's talk about the way out. This section is all about reclaiming your sovereignty. It's about how you move from that dizzying state of vertigo to a place of grounded, internal stability.
The first most critical step is just awareness, and a really powerful tool for that is something we can call a self-worth source audit. Just look at this chart. It's a visual of what a dangerous dependency looks like. In this example, 80% of this person's self-worth is coming from the dealer's approval. Just a tiny fraction is coming from their own internal values or any of their other relationships. This is like having your entire life savings in one single super volatile stock. The path to sovereignty is about diversifying your portfolio. It's about consciously building up your sense of value from multiple stable sources. Your own principles, your hobbies, your community, your connections with other supportive people. That way, if one source gets pulled, you don't collapse.
So what does this path to sovereignty actually look like day to day? First, you have to recognize the validation hook for what it is. Not a sign that they're your soulmate, but a symptom of the dependency. Second, you need to develop what we could call low-arousal awareness. This just means intentionally seeking out calm, stable, non-dramatic people and situations. Your nervous system has been trained to think chaos equals connection. You have to actively retrain it to learn that peace and stability are what feel good and safe. Third, and this one is huge for self-compassion, you have to understand that the feeling of panic you get when praise is withdrawn is a biological symptom of withdrawal. It is not a reflection of your failure or their importance. And finally, and this is maybe the most liberating step of all, you have to accept the freedom of just being ordinary. The addiction is so often tied to the need to be seen as extraordinary by this one person. When you let go of that need, you become free. You can just be authentically and peacefully yourself.
And that brings us to our final takeaway. Because if there's one core lesson here, it's that the most dangerous cages aren't made of iron bars. Sometimes they're made of applause.
If you remember only one thing from this entire explainer, let it be this image right here. Real support, real mentorship, real love, it acts like a steady light. It's consistent, it lights up your path, it helps you see yourself and the world more clearly, and it helps you grow. What it is not is a flickering strobe light. A strobe light is exciting, yeah, it's intense, but it's also incredibly disorienting. It gives you these brilliant flashes of light, but it always plunges you right back into total darkness. One brings clarity and growth, the other brings chaos and dependency.
And that really is the ultimate non-negotiable truth of this entire dynamic. If someone has the power to make you feel like a god, they have the power to make you feel like a ghost. Any external source with the ability to lift you up that high also holds the power to completely erase you. The path to sovereignty is about taking that power back. It's about deciding that your mind is your own, and your fundamental value as a human being is not a bargaining chip in anyone else's game. It's about owning your own worth so that no one else ever can.